What's up, everybody? A friend of mine recently upgraded his MacBook to a new PC because his 10-year-old MacBook has essentially become unusable, and this is a pretty common thing. Apple, love them or hate them, they're kind of notorious for putting out updates that makes their older hardware obsolete. So a lot of people are running into this thing where you've got this older machine that you've paid upwards of $1,500 for, and now it's basically not something that you can use just because it's become so slow. Today, I'm going to take this friend of mine's MacBook and I'm going to install Linux on there to see if there's any real noticeable improvement between the two operating systems. Now, I've run into in the past where I've updated older Windows machines and Linux really flies on the older hardware. I've never done this on a Mac before, so this should be interesting, and I'm going to be using a distro that I've never used before, but it becomes highly recommended from the people who comment on my videos regularly. I'm going to be using Manjaro. This will be my first experience with Manjaro, so this should be entertaining to say the least. So I think before I make any changes to this system, it's a good idea to just boot it up and get an idea of what we're dealing with here, get an idea of the system specs, see how it performs, and see what kind of hardware we have inside. That way we can really get a good comparison between how the current installation of macOS works versus the installation of Linux that I'm going to put on here later. So I'm going to do that now, and one of the things that I like to do is get an idea of how long it takes the system to boot up into the login screen. So I'm going to do the boot up test now. I'm going to hit the power button and time how long it takes from the time that I hit that power button to the time that it takes to get to the login screen. Hitting the power button in 3, 2, 1, now. Okay, so now we're at our login screen. Okay, now that we have our login screen, I'm going to log on and see how long it takes to load all of the applications. I have the password entered. I'm hitting enter right now. Okay, so it looks like everything has loaded up. I'm going to do a little bit of okay, I guess not everything was loaded up. But now I think it is. I'm going to do a little bit of web surfing and see what kind of web performance we get out of this. That's not too bad. Okay, so now iCloud is asking for a password. It took that long for that to come up. I don't know this password for that. We're just going to cancel out of this. So, okay, so now once I click on a video, we should get audio. Okay, so my sound card is not capturing audio through the HDMI output cable of this MacBook, and I'm not sure why that is. I could spend all day troubleshooting that here, but we're just going to move on. Video playback looks okay. So I think we've got enough tests here to do some comparison testing later to the Linux install. What I want to do now is look at the specs of this machine. So we have a 2.26 gigahertz Intel Core 2 Duo. We have 2 gigs of memory. Let's get into a deep dive of the system. Core 2 Duo, 2.26 gigahertz, we already established that. Number of processors, 1. Number of cores, 2. So our audio is Intel high definition audio, so that should work with Linux. Bluetooth, it's a crapshoot with Linux. We're going to cross our fingers and hope that it works. Camera, card reader, I assume all that stuff is going to work just fine. Ethernet card, usually not a problem with Linux. And the graphics, it's an Nvidia GeForce, so we should be good to go there with Linux as well. So I think we have a pretty good idea of how this thing works. I'm now going to blow this system away, and we're going to install Linux on this machine and see how it works. Wow, it takes a long time to even just shut down. Before I install Manjaro, I want to install a solid-state hard drive in this machine. It's easy enough to do, and solid-state hard drives are very cheap these days. To do that, I have to take the bottom panel off of this MacBook, and I've got to remove these screws. They're easy enough to remove, provided you do have a very small Phillips head screwdriver, almost like something you would use to work on eyeglasses. Keep in mind that these 3 screws near the hinge are longer than the rest. Once the screws are removed, the bottom plate should lift off very easily with minimal to no prying. Here we see we have easy access to the hard drive, but there is this black retaining clip holding the hard drive in place. It's got 2 screws that we need to remove. With that retaining clip removed, the hard drive just swings up and out. Then just remove the SATA cable plug by gently pulling it off of the hard drive. The hard drive has these 4 screws with nubs on the end. These nubs are Torx head and really small. I unfortunately do not have this size Torx head, and I'm not going to go out and buy one just for this project. I found that these come out very easily just with a pair of pliers. Now I'm going to put those screws into the new hard drive and use the pliers just for grip to snug them down. They don't have to be super tight, just snug. Now we put the new solid-state hard drive in the same way the old one came out. Plug in the SATA cable, replace the retaining clip, and screw it back in. Now we replace the bottom panel and all of its screws, and once that's done, we're ready to install our new operating system. I'm going to install Linux on here now, and I've already made a drive with Manjaro on here. This is the Linux distro that a lot of my viewers are suggesting that I give a try. I don't know Arch Linux at all, and I'm not familiar with Manjaro, but this comes highly recommended from the little bit of reading that I've done online, and it says that it's very user-friendly. So we're going to give this a shot, and I will basically be a arch newbie when it comes to this. This will be my first time giving it a shot. The strength that everybody talks about is the Arch user repository, so we're going to see how that works. Again, I have no experience with that whatsoever, so we're going to basically plug this into the USB port of this machine. We're going to power it on, and when we hear the chime, we hold the, I believe it's the Option key. It's been a while since I've done this, but we're going to see. I hear the chime, and now if everything, hey, wow, that was fast. So we have our option to, we're on boot Manjaro now, so, okay, I spent too much time talking about it, and it's gone ahead and chosen that option, and it's going to boot up there now. So hopefully it's spitting something out to the capture card so I can get this off of my ugly face, and we can, well, it's not quite spitting anything out there yet, but I'm certain that it will. It is trying to do something here. Whoa. Okay, so let me switch back over here. You can see over here that we have the system load up. It's giving, I'm pretty sure it has a problem to do with the capture card and using the capture card as a second monitor. What I'm going to actually do here is see if I can change the display type and change that to, oh, let's see. Okay, so after chasing the white rabbit of trying to figure out what was wrong with my capture card, I finally decided to plug this into a second monitor and just see what kind of result I was getting there. And as it turns out, I've decided that this is most likely a driver issue. So I'm going to go ahead and install Manjaro just off of the main laptop screen, and after everything is installed, I'm going to see if I can get to the bottom of this driver problem at that point. For now, we're just going to have to do it the old jank way, and we're going to go through and run the Manjaro installer, which is right here. I'm just going to hit next. I'm going to choose our time zone. I am indeed in the New York time zone, so I'm going to hit next. English US keyboard is fine. I'm going to choose erase disk. I'm going to hit next. Set up a user here. And we'll go with LibreOffice. We're going to hit install, install now. Okay, so now that the installer is finished, I'm going to click Restart Now, hit Done. I'm going to pull that USB installer stick out and let it boot into the hard drive now, where Manjaro should be installed. Okay, so I had to cheat and do a little reading on this part. I had to hit the Google and see how to actually do this, but we go to Settings, and then Manjaro Settings Manager, and down to Hardware Configuration. Then we click on Auto Install Proprietary Driver. We'll be prompted for a password, and once we authenticate, it should install. Now that that driver is finished installing, I'm going to reboot the system, and we see now that our second monitor output is working, so I should be able to switch back over to the capture card and record this like a civilized human being. Alright, so I've got output to my capture card, and the graphics are not doing that crazy flickery thing that it was doing before, so I would assume that we're good to go with the graphics card driver. So I did a little bit of reading, and one of the major strengths of Manjaro is being able to use the AUR user repository, and that's something that is not enabled by default. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to enable that now. That is in Add and Remove Software. And it's said to go into Preferences. Oh, probably these three dots here. Yeah, there we go. Probably that. It's giving us a warning here, basically saying that this is a community maintained repository. We'll turn on Flatpak while we're at it too. So with the AUR repository enabled, we should be able to find quite a few packages now. I am not going to go too deep into this. Basically, this seems pretty self-explanatory, and there is a ton of community support for Manjaro, but in a nutshell, if you're looking for software, look here first. So internet browsing appears to be pretty solid. I've not encountered any real problems there. Let's take a look at how video playback works out.
Hidden room of Thomas Jefferson's mansion solves 200-year-old mystery. But before we start, please make sure to subscribe to Did You Know and hit the bell so you never miss an upload from us. Also,
one thing that I've run into is that I can't get audio out of the HDMI port on this device. I've messed around with different drivers. I just can't get that up and going, and I've got to get this thing back to the guy tomorrow, and I need to get this video finished editing. So if anybody knows what that problem may be, leave a comment below, let us know. Alright, so I paired a Bluetooth speaker, and I want to test that out now to make sure that the Bluetooth capability is working on this MacBook. So yeah, Bluetooth is confirmed working here. That's playing through the Bluetooth speaker. And this is what I was talking about with the HDMI output not actually putting any audio out. So I'm not sure what that, what the deal with that is. Okay, so with Manjaro installed on this machine on the new SSD, there's only one more test for me to perform here, and that is a boot up, a timed boot up test. And I know somebody in the comments is going to complain that I didn't do a proper test of macOS on this SSD, and I didn't do a test of Manjaro on the old spinning platter hard drive. Look, I don't have time for that stuff. I don't have time to install multiple operating systems on a multiple disk. This is a hobby, so if you want to do that kind of thing, please, by all means. Anyway, I'm ranting again. Let's see how quick this thing boots up with Manjaro on this solid-state hard drive. Hitting the power button in 3, 2, 1, now. Here's our login screen. And hitting enter on the keyboard to log in now. There's our OS up and running. Pretty impressive. So that's it, guys. I think it performed pretty well. And if you've got an older machine that modern software updates has updated that thing into basically obsolescence where you can't use it anymore, throw Linux on there, give it a shot. You may find that you get a few more years of life out of that old machine. If you like this video, check out one of my other videos and do all the other YouTube stuff down below. Like, subscribe, share. That's it for now, and I'll see you next time.